America. So Jason comes down, he visits Speed Sig. It was in its super young state. And you said he came by in the trial. You got camp coming up. How different is it when you look at it between camp and training? Because is there asymmetries, players playing different positions? Like, how do you look at it?
So we got Speed Sig. We got it in October. Honestly, it's almost like the middle of the season. And like my initial mild churn about him, Jason, I was talking about it purely on we had a player with a lateral deltoid ligament reconstruction. And like he was going through like his normal kind of stages of rehab. He just recently come out of a boot, so he hitting a lot of things from like dribbles and stuff like that perspective. And I remember thinking like he jumped on a force plate, and because he's like a freak of nature, like it like looked really good. And I was like, this is lying to me for sure. Like this, like I'm like there's something definitely off, and some of it could be like, the company of force plate we have, whatever. But like that also very far. We don't have Hawkin yet. But I was like. And anyway, talking to Jason, he comes by, visit campus, kind of give him a tour. They see my boss Gio and head AT Scott. Gives us the whole presentation. We talked for a good hour and a half, 2 hours, just about from a 2-mass model, some of the metrics. We were asking questions of how we can use it from a rehab perspective, but also a performance end. And then literally, like I was saying before we started recording, I'm back at home. We were to do a trial. Gio texted me. I felt the trial. Let's just get it paid for. Let's run with this thing now because could be a game changer for us. And shameless plug, it had, kind of really, always has been in that the ability to assess running objectively, outside of your just output metric of are they hitting 70% of their top speed, are they hitting 75, 80, are they hitting the density we want, but seeing the actual quality of how they're getting to those outputs. Super valuable in that sense, and then the ability to scale it to I remember we got into after the season, had a couple return to play guys here and there who they had it on. So within actual football, we you can't really use it, but it's purely linear running or linear decel and change direction stuff is super valuable in that piece. So had a bit of data on some of the guys the lateral ankle guy, receiver, he has so many data points at this point because literally he has data from middle of October when we first started using on him all the way till last week when we were done training. And just from every step you take, while you're running from 1 meter per second all the way to 10 plus meters per second. He doesn't run 10 plus meters per second. He's but if you got there, but so that was a super valuable piece of seeing I can see how are you running and what's your how you get into those outputs when we're running just at a tempo pace the entire time. And I can filter, okay, now I just want to see your top end stuff, or I just want to see your Excel work and be able to see what your strategy is for sprinting and running at those different speeds across the board. And even getting to a point of force velocity profile and sprinting, some of the Excel data and stuff like that. You get your peak power, you get horizontal force reduction, things like that within it. And so when we got into adult season, kind of end day, went to the bowl. One of the first things I did was can I get more belts? And so I ordered 30 more belts. So I'm because it scales super easily. All we do is just take the belt. We got 40 of them now. Put it on 40 guys in a session. They're all under catapult who have their profile and speed sig. And we literally just run a general. It would be tempo day, or match velocity day, or Excel day. They just do the whole session with it on. And adding in this clip, when I upload the raw data file, I literally just clip out, I only want to see your first 5 reps of a tempo. It's I just want to see those. Or if we're doing an intensive tempo, okay, I want to see your 10 reps of an intensive tempo. Or I want to see your 4 match velocity efforts or sprint flow sprint and what have you. So being able to scale it to that level has been super valuable for me.
So
go ahead.
When I was at Towson, we had 26 units and they wore it in the they wore their units in the harness up top. But when they're going to run, they have to wear it around their waist and when you're going in training now?
Yeah. So we're doing just on our running side from a speed state, assess perspective, I'll just put it in the belts. And we had cases where in the summer, because OTAs will take, and if it does that speed before they go straight to OTAs with the coaches, they just come out with the vest on and the belt on. And have to get in the belt. Hey, we're done with speed. We got OTAs in 10 minutes, whatever. I'm just gonna take the belt off, put your unit back in back in your normal vest, and you're good to go. And I just then clip out that time with those efforts. So
That makes a ton of sense.
yeah, so that scale piece was part of supervisors. I've used some others that are more camera based and film based before. Like, I used to play around with some of the Astros with that, and just it's great for rehab situations and one off, but within like a team setting, just not as valuable in that sense, because okay, I can't film 50 guys in a session, like one by one, especially our kids. We'll do I need you all to stand in a line. One person's gonna run. I'm gonna set up an iPad on a tripod, and there's no one at a time. Dudes would be doing backflips. Like people would, piss in the corner. Like it'd be full chaos ensue. In that sense,
That's the exact reason why in my dissertation I compared the G flight with the force plate, because like at the time this was before any of the other devices came out, but the My Jump app was super reliable to a force plate. But like you said, you can't. That's not scalable in a team sense. And anybody that's listening now, they keep hearing you talk about scaling, and they talk about like these different measures. Is this something that can replace a 1080? Does it tell you what are the metrics that it's telling you that coaches care about this?
So they're going to be like ground contact time, hip lock, flight time, from Excel horizontal profile sample, horizontal force velocity profiles, peak power, time to peak power, hip lock. Hip lock's been a super viable one, especially from a rehab case. Is like there are times where you see someone running where okay, and we assume it's a ground contact issue, and it's like maybe not really a ground contact issue. That's just the end result because of their inability maybe to be stable at the pelvis and accept that force. Rip and punch, that's not more thigh angular velocity and switching.
Keeping your certification is essential to staying hired as a strength and conditioning coach. Both of our long-form courses, Fundamentals 1 and Fundamentals 2, offer CEUs to the NSCA, the NCSF, as well as the ASCA professional development points. Click the link down below to learn more about our education courses, which are both over 20 hours long and allow you to learn from some of the best practitioners in the field of strength and conditioning.
So I don't know if I've never used a 1080. Of course, that's not true. I've used a 1080 once, and I thought it was really sweet tech and the ability to do assisted and resistant stuff, and it's a very consistent resistance, things like that. It's super viable. It's not another thing of scalability. It doesn't scale super well, and even the data itself is very, very raw in a lot of cases. So I don't know if it fully replaces the 1080 because you don't have the resistant piece to a speed SID, but also let's be functional, not functional, for reasonable here. It's you want to buy 8 1080s, or you just want to do sled weight off a percentage of body weight and put a belt on. And it's if it's not a perfect resistance the entire time, it's it'll be okay. And then how many guys do really need towing, from a sprinting standpoint? How many guys really need to be towed in a team sport setting that aren't, maybe you may have a one of one freak of a freak athlete you have a Devin Allen. He was at Oregon. So okay, that's an elite level track athlete, so he could benefit from some towing. But Johnny receiver, probably who runs 21 miles an hour, doesn't need to be towed. Most people aren't even sprinting past a distance of 25 yards. You don't need to do any towing. You need to work with some true upright running and match velocity. Do a sprint first before you start talking about towing.
I couldn't agree with you more. That's why I'm laughing like that, because it's gotten to the point where people are doing that. You talked about scalability, and from seeing the stuff that they put out there, though, I see a lot of the waterfall stuff, and maybe that's just me, but I feel like when you waterfall, if you don't let the athlete run a little bit further, you still don't see the full rep. Maybe the athlete, maybe it's just because they were waterfalling after 1 or 2 steps, but because you still want to be able to see the rep yourself as a coach and then look back on the data, or does it not matter because you don't watch everything at practice anyways and you get a GPS data?
Yeah. So we like the waterfall. Big ones for us is some of it is purely because if we don't waterfall it, they are going to full on fucking race. It's that's like a good thing about our guys. They're super competitive with each other. They love like speed days are fun because they love to talk shit to each other,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So even if it's like a waterfall, it still ends up being a race because guys are now trying to chase them.
Yeah.
And so for me, anyway, I think I like a waterfall because it helps me able to. I can just like back up. I can see everyone, and I usually, depending on the day, if it's like match velocity day, like I'm not as worried about looking at like the start because I want to see when we get upright, and then vice versa, like an Excel day. So I think it's like, but we always go waterfall usually as like position group based too, so we have more rest also because they were like skill bid scale bids or vice versa, whatever the order is. So that way, really, your waterfalls maybe 15 guys, 10 guys.
Have you noticed anything majorly like anterior pelvic position on your ACL days? Like, hey, like we're actually, is that a measurement that it shows like, man, there is a big anterior pelvic tilt for these guys because we are doing more acceleration and, you know, hey, let's try to fix that in the weight room, or hey, this guy complains about this. When I look at his speed sig stuff, like, yeah, he is actually getting some more movement at his pelvis than we want when he's doing his upright running. And then we can really like how deep into it will you get once you then sit back and look at the data?
Yes, that's what people will like kind of use, like the hip lock and like ground contact and switching kind of function comes in this data comes in super valuable, and that's something we kind of saw with our training going into the summers that we spent because we didn't sell super well last like fall. So that was a big attacking point for us, like from a training side. In the winter was like, hey, we need to like accelerate better. We need to like learn how to get out better. Our horizontal force push needs to be better. And that's what also became like speed sig was viable. Like, and us seeing that, okay, that's a normal for the majority of the group, offense and defense and Devo guys was like that quality. And then we got to a point, so okay, we like hammered that really, really well. We didn't hammer enough, I think, top end stuff. And so we kind of did like a lot what maybe is like counter to what kind of people typically do from like a high-low model is that when we got to the summer, we actually flipped we did our sell day into the week, our seller, because we're like, in reality, that's like the lower stimulus from a CNS perspective, is lower stress versus like, hey, like our upright running stuff, we need to get better, be taller, our needs to be clean. We need to take our sprint distances and volumes out more. We need to clean up some of our like our hip and pelvic kind of control, and some of them like that jarred the Gucci research, like some of the play too. That's something you can naturally see in guys that's super lordotic, like that naturally. But hey, let's like take some of those things we're adding in the weight room side to work on that. We're adding on the PT side, like that, particularly like on the AT side for the medical staff, because some of that stuff we'll push on to them as well. The guys hitting like prehab, like treatment, like after training, depending who they are, and then that's like, okay. Now let's also develop those things on the field as well. Like, let's like bleed it all in together, and let's move our match velocity and top and stuff to early in the week. So like, we would do tempo on a Monday, top and work on a Tuesday, because it just fit what we want to progress and push more. And also from like if you properly train and develop your match velocity stuff, it's gonna help your acceleration anyway. Like it's not many people who are very fast but excel like shit. like he's not a team sport. Elite level track, whole different story. Yeah, but like in your team sport, like hey, if he runs 23 miles an hour, like in 30 yards, his excel is probably not bad. like especially when you're teaching him, there's an angle, a shin drop. Okay, sweet, like we're there. And so I think sometimes it's safe and it feels easy to like always hammer acceleration stuff from like S&C side because it's not long. It's not like a long distance, like how resisted work. And I think there's like back in our mind like, oh my god, like last time I was going to pull a hamstring. But there is a level of just like training like the weight room too of like, hey, like you gotta play with the fire a little bit. Like you gotta be willing to kind of push the edge to make everyone better. Like I mean, it sounds fucked up. It sounds like dark to say, but not like something's gonna happen. You have 130 on your roster, 110 on your roster. Like you're gonna have one or two. Now you got 6, different story. Like then it's like, okay, might have to revive and things, but like you got one every training cycle, 1 or 2, maybe even 3, like every 10-week block. Like you'll be okay. Especially if like if your hamstring rehab is like sound and logical, like you'll be okay.
I couldn't agree with you more on that.
And because, you also find too like some like hamstring strains. That's probably a whole different tangent. It's like a bit over. diagnosed in a lot of ways. It's like, is it hamstring or is it like tight because it's like he doesn't run upright ever, and like yeah, it's tight because like it's not doesn't feel like from like it's not a safety there. He's never it's a new exposure for him. Like the first time you like go for a PR on like a bat squat, on like a heavy squat or heavy bench, it's like, oh, my shoulder hurts. It's like it's not shoulder's not hurt. It's the first time you ever touched 98% of your match before. Like so your body's like, what the hell's going on?
Taking a quick break from the show to talk to you about one of our sponsors, TeamBuildr. TeamBuildr has been my online software platform choice since 2019. Been using it at Towson, using it at Goldfinch, and use it with my online remote clients. You can learn more about them in the link down below. TeamBuildr is also part owner in the Plyomat, which will allow you to get quick, valid, and reliable jump data, jump height, ground contact time, and reactive strength index in just seconds. They are part owner of Plyomat, so you can check them out in the link down below as well.
I couldn't agree with you more about the first thing that I want to say for any of our listeners is when you talked about the Friday acceleration, we did it on Monday for the same reason. Like we wanted to get 3 high days, and we did it on Monday because our kids weren't recovered after the weekend. Like our kids partied hard. Okay. And they could grit through heavy resistance on sleds, or they could, run again. They were competitive kids too. Yeah. So like they'd want to run fast, but if I just shortened it to 10 yards, they'd be healthy. And then we would do our max velo week stuff on like Wednesday, because we go 3 high days. So anybody listening to this, like you do have to adapt to your situation, and it doesn't just always have to be, you need to know your kids. Like that's very first and foremost. And the hamstring strain thing, I've had podcasts where we talked about this whole notion of like, we had 0 soft tissue injuries when I was there. Then you just didn't train them hard. Something's going to happen when, like I just said, our kids would party hard. Springfest weekend, you knew you couldn't really do anything crazy on Monday.
Oh yeah.
Like if you do, somebody's getting hurt.
Yeah. That's the funny thing. When you have like a good relationship with like your players too, like they will tell you. Like that's one thing I say. We joke that's like really good about where guys like they'll straight up tell us like, hey, like we're gonna be honest, we got fucked up last night. Like we're fucking still hungover. Like, we all went to a bunch of our linemen one day. One of our guys went to a concert, went to like a Morgan Wallen concert, and like, hey, that's fine, brother. We fucking got 20 tempos today. Like, sweat the demons out. You gotta be and we always joke we have is like, if you're gonna be a man tonight, you gotta be a man today. Like that's just what it is. It's Tampa. It's 95 degrees outside at 7 a.m. Like,
that's a good point about the heat, and we're not going to dive into that one, but with your role, and this is a conversation that I've been having with the NSCA within a special interest group, like the whole load management thing. And I'm not here to try to talk about like basketball and sitting people, but like ultimately who has the say in your opinion, and you don't have to talk specifically at USF, but like who is the end decision maker about load management, and how can strength coaches help best the team, the athletes? Like, how do we do the best job possible to A, keep our job, but B, do our job and serve the athletes?
I say the person who always the final say is always like your head football coach.
That's what we said. That's what we started.
Coach, or like your offense coordinator, defensive coordinator. And I think it's like I think some of it is like the
You're still hungry? Okay, we're gonna eat dinner soon. Scared the life out of me. Oh my god, I was deep in that conversation.
No, good. I think some of the low management piece, like, it has a negative connotation because of like the ESPN, the articles, Sports Illustrated, all that other stuff. But like, I think also the phrasing is probably wrong. It's not really necessarily load management. It's like you want to build up a level of like chronic load you can tolerate. And so I think that's where people kind of mess up. Where like they become become too risk averse. Where like you have to look at it the lens from the sport coach side of like, I need these dudes prepared for practice. I need them prepared for the game. Like the game of like football is regardless of play style, it's pretty much going to be unless you're Army or Navy, like it's going to be a 3-hour game at a minimum. 3 hours of standing on your feet, like with some repeat high intensity efforts. And worst case scenario, you're playing against a team that goes on a 14 play drive, and like your defense is absolutely toasted, or vice versa. You're given a 14 play drive, and your O line and your receivers are fucking smoked because they're like, holy shit, can we score the goddamn ball? And so like I think sometimes as SC coaches we do I don't know if it's ego necessarily. I think we just do a disservice where like we become so risk averse that we don't want them to like get hurt or do anything, not understanding like, hey, like they have to be prepared for practice. They have to be prepared for practice, not just one day a week. They have to be prepared for practice like 2, 3, or 4 days a week, depending on whatever like your kind of microcycle model is, like at your program. And so I think understanding what the demands are for the game, but also then understanding what they need to be able to tolerate in practice, and then finding smart ways over time to build up that chronic load they can tolerate. So that was not going from, we had this super optimal summer or winter program, but it's like, okay, great. It was like optimal, and like everyone, like quote unquote optimal was good, but like no one's robust. So now you're going from that into like, they have a 2.5 hour practice day one, or 2 hour, even if it's 2 hour practice day one. Their first week they need to tolerate 19,000 yards. But you've never touched anything over 10,000 in a week. And yeah, they feel good. So yeah, sure they did feel good the last 10 weeks. They didn't fucking do anything. Yep. And so now it's like now you're doubling their volume, and then you blame the sport coach. And it's like maybe to a point, but also they have like a duty to the players from like a technical, tactical side. They have to like install. They have to offenses alone are 250, 300 plus plays. These are hard things you have to install and teach 18 to 22-year-olds who, like, some of them, because of the transfer, you may have just got this dude in January. You need him you need him to fully understand this and get reps in this in the spring, and then be ready to play with this into the fall. Or no scenario, like you get a guy in the summer, like, hey, you got him in June, he needs to be ready to go by September. Like, he needs to understand the offense, understand the defense.
Taking a quick break from the show to talk to you about one of our sponsors, Hawkin Dynamics. I've had Hawkin Dynamics for multiple years, dating back to my time at Towson, and still utilize them here at Goldfinch when I'm training athletes in Iowa. Hawkin Dynamics makes it simple to be able to get input to find out what's going on underneath the hood with your athletes. Whether it's lower body assessment, upper body assessments, you want reliable data to find out how the athlete is putting force into the ground so you can be able to accurately return an athlete from an injury, and you can also find out how the athlete is producing force to check how your training is working. Check out Hawkin Dynamics in the link down below.
And get reps within that. So I think there's always that balance, understanding what your demands are from a practice and game perspective, how to build up that kind of load, like that chronic load they can tolerate, and that robustness. But you can still push the envelope from a physical standpoint. Like, you can still get stronger, you still get faster, more powerful, while still building it up if you do it the right way, like a chronic load tolerance they can handle. Like, obviously, sports like Aussie rules football, like rugby league, or when I was working like rugby unions, like we still dudes ran like a motherfucker, like, because you have to. It's nature of the sport. Like, but also dudes still got faster, got stronger. Like, you just have to be in shape to tolerate the intensity that you need to be able to repeat, or maximal intensity you need to be able to expose yourself to, in that sense. So I think that's where like the load management piece gets so construed, where people are just doing too little, and it's like you're doing him a disservice the other end. Is that instead of before doing way too much, which has been an issue before in the past, like within our profession. Now you've underprepared him for it, so now he's just fragile. So yes, sweet. He's super. Our team's super fast. Our team's like very fresh. But like, yeah, man, like it's a 3 hour game. Like, being fresh in quarter one's great. Being fresh in the fourth quarter is a different story. Like our first game was 104 snaps. Like, against Western Kentucky. I was game one of the season. We're like, oh my god, how in the world are we supposed to prepare them for this? And I thought we did a pretty good job within camp and things like that. How we kind of manage practice, and like we didn't do as much week to week. It was more individual based last year, as opposed to like going to this year. It was be a bit more like kind of undulations of like day to day and week to week. But like, hey, like I think we were like number one country in like plays per game last year, like 86, I want to say, or 87 plays per game. Like our starting center was number one country in snaps, like 1,050. And it's like, yeah, man, like you can't just do that by having 10,000-yard weeks. like he needs to be able to be exposed to like a bit of like that worst case scenario. And we kind of operate on like, let's build up to about 1.5 to 2 standard deviation above our like hardest week from a game perspective. So the hardest week from a game perspective was pretty much similar to our hardest week in camp. Let's build to about 1.5 to 2 standard deviation above that once in the summer, and then just peel back, and then build up a little bit more. Don't have to get that high again, then peel back, and just always just like waving that like week and that like load. But they still like there should be points where they feel like garbage. Like it's how you adapt. Essentially, like it's like, hey, no one ever got strong by not being sore. Like it's not don't ever like got in shape without ever breathing hard. Like
one of the things I wrote down when you were talking there about the OCs is I haven't worked with a triple option team. It'd be interesting to hear the head S&C of a team that runs triple option. And the reason I say that is typically your OC is the quarterback coach. The quarterback doesn't run, right? It's just kind of throwing. So like the OC will want a lot of plays done because his guy's not moving. But like if your quarterback's running all over the place, maybe that's going to change how many plays you're calling in practice, or like that's my hypothetical question to you. Do you think that matters? Like if you ran a triple, do you think your OC would be more mindful of this idea of like, would it be easier to work with in theory?
I don't know if it'd be easier. It'd be a different constraint to work around, because like there'd be some level of like, okay, we're a triple option team, like he's gonna have to be able to handle some amount of like high speed distance and high speed distance per minute, because he has to be able to tolerate that within practice. But then also there's that balance too of like, it's your quarterback. There's also like a collision management, which is like how often can he really need to get hit in practice? Like he needs to be able to get hit because he has to be able to carry the ball, but like he can't be getting whacked 4 days a week and then expect him to be fine on Saturday too. And so I think
that would then make the coach aware of like the rest of the, because like if he's thinking that about his guy, he might be at least a little bit more aware of like the wide receivers, you know?
Yeah. So I thought almost like those ends of the spectrum in some way, like you get like triple option and like air raid. Like I think those two things from like because they're one dimensional, it sounds like me like an asshole, but like not. No, but like,
it is kind of. I mean, shit. The triple option's one dimensional. Like, there's a reason that they make a joke that there was a pass in the Army Navy game. Like,
exactly. So because like they're like, hey, that's their foundation. It's like it's an air raid offense, or the triple option. Like in some ways, it's easier because you know exactly what you need to prepare for, I think. But it's harder in that you know exactly what you need to prepare for, so you can overthink the shit out of it. Because I think like a triple option. Okay, your ability to run is be good. You're gonna have to be freaking strong. You're gonna be a strong team. You gotta be powerful, really physical. And honestly, you probably need, like for a triple option, they probably need some exposure to some like glycolytic, like uncomfortable conditioning, especially your linemen. Because like, hey, like whole point of options, like you want to wear a team down, you might have to have a 14, 16 play drive that starts in the 5-yard line and just 3 yards in a cloud of dust all the way down to a touchdown. Like, and it's like that's gonna be brutal for offensive linemen. So like there's a level of like, hey, we have to expose you to some ugly a little bit. And probably the same similar, I would think, to like air raid side for your skill position players. Like, hey, like every rep in the air raid, every rep's probably not maximal running speed on your route, like, but you need to be exposed to some super dense, a bit ugly, more lat tip running. Just how you like been first time you've been exposed to it. Doesn't want to be when you have a DB in your face trying to press you off the line. Like you want to be exposed to that a bit early in a very controlled setting, and then let's add a little bit of football to where like, oh, now there's like other people around. Then let's add the oppose. Maybe it's still like a scouting guy giving you a look, and then now it's added chaos of like practice of like, hey, he's trying to push you 5 yards into the sideline, and you still need to be able to run it out, and then you need to run back and do it again.
Yeah, that's a team that, like you said, they don't want to avoid the middle that Charlie talks about, which again is why anybody listening, look at who is giving you the advice and the sport that they work in, and then always remember to take it with a grain of salt. Because like I'm sure y'all at USF probably do some dynamic effort work, but are you always doing 12 sets of 2 with, you know, super maximal, more band tension than chains, or more than straight weight? Probably not. Like
100%. Like we're pretty conjugate, especially this past summer. Like we'll work up to 10 sets of 2, on dynamic effort on bench and like on box squat and on bench. But also we do like repeat sprintability work that is like it is ugly. But it's like, hey, when you snap the ball every 15 seconds,
Taking a quick break from the show to talk to you about one of our sponsors, Vitruve VBT. With Vitruve, you can accurately measure what speeds your athletes are moving the bar. No longer do you have to program simply based on sets and reps. You can program for your more mature athletes based on the velocities that they are hitting. You can accurately measure at a great price with Vitruve, and you can have this integrate with your TeamBuildr, making it simple so you no longer have to write down the recorded reps from other devices. Everything in one place with Vitruve VBT. Check them out in the link down below.
like on the offensive side, it's like need to be prepared for like sometimes like your legs in the field kind of heavy, but like we still need you to make this block on this screen, like, or we still need you to make this block like I run a speed option play, and then on the defensive side, it's like hey like the great side of the tempo on the offense side is that when it's rolling, and like teams are getting worn out, but also if you score fast, it means you're back on defense fast, or even the other case, like if you get 3 and out, or you get 2 or 3 and outs, you're back on the field in 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes. Like defense, you're literally back out there. Like some of our defensive players were some of the highest in the country in snaps. Like they were, we have linebackers average like 70-something snaps a game this past year, and like I said, hey, like he needs that exposure to like that kind of ugly, like uncomfortable, bit lactic, like kind of work. Like, hey, yes, is the repeat sprintability, is it true a lactic effort? You know, because football's alactic, like aerobic. It's like, no, it's not. But it's reality of what the actual sport is going to happen, what's going to happen in a game sometimes.
I said that it's football is alactic aerobic for certain positions because linemen, it's a lactic bath.
Yeah.
They
100%.
like you have contact, you block somebody, your fat ass falls. And I can say that, everybody, because I used to be that. You fucking fall, you get up, you go to the huddle. Like you're at no point are you recovered at all.
Yeah.
Now
we got first beat for our offensive line, and a couple of receivers have it too. And like the things, and this is just in OTAs and like Indies, things like that. Like just seeing what the work to get done there, and they're being like, man, and like our O-line coach is like, honestly, like this is, I look at this way more than I've ever looked at any of the capital reports in, because the capital report was just too noisy, which it is for Bates. Like it's just not. It's just even like the contact load, it's like it's okay, but it's not great.
I don't trust it. I don't trust the contact load on it because I was getting people saying it was a contact on a day that they were changing direction violently. I don't buy it.
Yeah, so using like the first like heart rate monitors have been like super viable for them. Like, hey, these are days we need to be bigger, days need to be lower, we can push and pull, and we're now gonna see like this is what each individual period looks like. And because they have like with first beat, they have like a little sleeve now you can kind of put on it so it doesn't pop off at all. So like never had an issue popping off. We can run it live, or we run it live at practice and clip it up like live per period too. So you can see like, hey, like this is what inside run looks like. This is what team on air looks like. And also get an idea of like, hey, like, oh, can we push our density in team on air more? Like we're a tempo team. Let's have 2 balls out there. Let's move up the field. Like those little elements of like making it harder. And so that's what survived for our offensive line. In essence, that's what I think. It's just not cool. It's not fun to say. Everyone's a sprint and like lift heavy or lift fast. And it's like sometimes you just do shit that fucking blows. like we don't, as coaches, I don't want to watch 24 tempos.
No,
I don't want to watch that. But hey, it's what we gotta do.
Now, do you then recommend only do like, okay, so you just said 24 tempos, like that in and of itself is boring, but what if it's also, hey, we're going to do some shuttle runs. And the reason that I'm asking this is I'm kind of leading to, maybe I want to hear some confirmation bias, but like at Towson, my staff and we would script and be like, all right, hey, we got to get this number of yards. We're going to do this number of, sprint work or some change in direction reps, and we would do like 5, take a break, then the defense would go up, 6, take a break, and it wouldn't be the exact same numbers, but that way it would be A, less boring for us, but B, it would also just get in the habit of, hey, like you just said, defense is off, offense is on the field watching and trying to just recreate that.
I like that. That's a good idea. I'm definitely going to do that. We definitely want to talk about that for the winter.
If you want to steal it even more, what we would do is we put the quarterbacks in the middle, for the offense, and then they had to get used to the snap count because I don't know why, couldn't pay attention to the snap count in practice, and they wanted to just drill it down. So the quarterbacks would be saying the snap count to start the offense. And I wasn't that, because I wasn't that guy that's like, you got to start it on the whistle. Like, no, I would be refereeing it. And if somebody false started, you blow the whistle and you do it again or whatever.
Yeah.
And then for the defense, what I did to try to get them to jump off sides, quarterback 5 yards ahead, defense is on the goal line, quarterback's on the 5. And the quarterback would give a fake cadence, but they didn't start until he ran. So that way they had to get used to watching him.
Actually seeing it, yeah.
Yep. And so like, so he could be like, said, hot. And if somebody like jumped off sides, we would throw the flag.
Yeah. I really like that. Okay, I'm definitely stealing that one.
Steal that, use it, because like it was number one, strength coaches listening. You now look like you can't, like, if you're going to the defensive coordinator, hey, do y'all have a hard time staying on sides? Let's try this. Or coaches, it seemed like, hey, like you're working together. It looks like football. It smells like football.
Yeah.
You're throwing them a bone.
Yeah, 100%. That's what I've seen, that like fatigue response too. That sounds been like, I like being able to use like speed sid with too, is seeing like from our receivers, DBs like that. Like, hey, if we have like sometimes we mix a bit of like our intensive tempo and extensive tempo in the same day. We're like, hey, like you have 6 intensive tempo like reps, and then seeing, okay, there's 6 intensive tempo reps, like your first 6 reps of the 18 we have that day or whatever, and then seeing like, okay, cool, like they this is what their strategy was the first 3. Then I can see what the strategy was the second 3, and then when they're running at true like a sub-maximal tempo pace, seeing if it starts to fall apart as of like, due to fatigue, legs feeling heavier for the next 12 reps, essentially. Because you're able to just upload everything and then clip out what's essentially why I upload all of them and then filter out like, oh, we know at our tempo pace we want guys run at 80%, 80 to like really like 78 to like 82% on intensive tempo, so it's like pretty rough. It's okay, cool. I can see what that speed looked like and what the strategy was then, where it's like it's not maximal, but it's not truly sub-max either. It's kind of that ugly middle. And then let's see how like we're able to get back to a true sub-maximal running strategy and tempo run strategy like thereafter every rep, 7 through 18 essentially. And then be able to see also like from a true speed side, like the next day or two later, okay, like what's our strategy now? Like are we actually recovered, or like maybe did we overcook it on Monday? And so maybe like guys are still hitting 90% plus at the top speed. Oh, okay, but his strategy like kind of changed a fair bit. Then it becomes a conversation, it leads to a conversation too later on, because uploading the data from on speed is like, it takes literally, I like now with the new software like it is now, I can upload the entire team and it'll do a whole upload in like 3 minutes. I do the entire team at one time, especially if it happens within a 5-10 minute time frame. So the entire defense, for example, if we do like Devo defense offense, if I do the entire defense or whatever many guys have on catapult in defense and speed sit, like say it's 34 guys.
Taking a quick break from the show to talk to you about one of our sponsors, Sleep Me. Sleep Me are the makers of the Chili Pad, which has been my bed cooling device since 2020. Chili Pad will allow you to sleep and not wake up hot anymore. This was something that I had to worry about. I used to have the air conditioning down way too low. Now, I don't have to have the air conditioning as low because my Chili Pad, my Dock Pro, keeps my bed cold at night. Check out Sleep Me, check out the Chili Pad, check out the Dock Pro in the link down below.
I can upload all 34. They're all 34 guys, 18 reps, 12 reps, 3 reps, whatever it is, at one time, and walk away from it. And in 5 minutes, it wins that many guys. But if it's like 10 guys, it's like 4 seconds. Yeah.
Hearing you talk about that made me think, okay, on your ACL days, if you are accelerating from different positions, push up on the ground, half kneeling, 2-point, 3-point, and if you're doing it with, heavier loads, 50% body weight, 100% body weight, whatever, have you started to see differences what differences have you seen?
A big one we saw like in the winter most of the lava heavy resistant stuff was like guys, like our guys who were over pushers, which we did have a fair amount of those, like over pushers, like seeing like the amount of time they could spend on the ground, but they would create so much force because of the load that switch and that punch would just be kind of all over the place. Like their ability to like drive the foot into the ground, the ability to switch in the air, things like that, and creating that switch was like all over the place. But it was a ton of force because they were just over pushing, spending so much time that that sequencing was basically being thrown off. And that's when we started to see a lot of like, hey, like this potentially why his flight time is trapped. It's like, is his flight time trapped because he's spending too much time on the ground because we maybe overcooked, like maybe I overcooked like our Excel stuff because of, and then it's like, oh, and some of it too was like there was a level of like positional demand, like like our linebackers, most of them were our quote unquote heavy pushers, but like it made sense for the position. So like I'm not trying to necessarily make you super elastic and super upright because it's not going to be beneficial, like for how you play within our defense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And that's where, because my thought process was like, oh, hey, if it's like your weaker guys, are they going to, because their legs are weaker, are you going to start to see that, the anterior tilt that I was talking about? Are they not able to get, because it is too heavy, they're not able to get, get front side, get that hip lock that you're talking about. And you're like, yeah, I actually did see that. And I remember
guys who are weak, especially like our Devo guys. Devo, guys who are new to like maybe transfers from other schools or whatever that have been in a program, like that hip lock and pelvis stability spot was where like there was a huge, it was very like messy, like a lot of, and it's because like some of them are a lot of Florida kids, like a lot of them are fast. Like we have 18-year-olds who run 22 miles an hour, or some 17-years who run 22 miles an hour, like have noted what they're doing, where the body is in space, but like he runs 22 miles an hour, and you realize, and that's what I think some of the species has done for me. It's made me be more attentive about coaching in our drills, like our drill and prep work. Like, hey, like let's have a lot of intent when we do a double tap switch. Have a lot of intent with like our hip lock drill. Like don't just go through the motions. Our dribbles, like let's actually make sure like we're coaching it correctly because like those things like help transfer, would still help clean up some of those things on the front, on the back end when we're actually sprinting because they're like slower down, lower amplitudes, more of a true drill. And also even like progressing some of that stuff. Like, hey, let's add a band to some of our switches, add some band resistance there. Let's add some resistance to our scissor runs. Like, let's actually train that lumbopelvic stability instead of just like, oh, we're just gonna do scissor run because we have one does scissor run. And we're gonna do switches, we have one does switches. But it's like, hey, like you haven't have to make it harder. You can't just do the same thing over and over again. Like, oh, why am I getting better at this? It's like because you haven't changed it. It's like anything else. It's like any weight rooms, any like running simulators. Like we have to add something to it to make it to challenge that system more. And so that's what we're like, oh, seeing that even add strength. So, on our scissor run, we're gonna go this bitch stride, but your hands will stay on hips the entire time. And like instead of doing 10 yards, like hey, we're going 30. Like, and we went 4 times. And then seeing like some of those changes, like, as we're actually training that area, that pelvis, and actually hip flexion, hip extension, and the ability to snap down. Oh, so like our ground cut times improved, and it's not we did it without just doing pogos. Like, we did pogos ankle, and it's like, okay, cool. Well, like, were they true pogos, or were they just kind of like jump in, landing flat footed? Were they actually having intent of like being springy off the floor? There's like, hey, there's other ways you can train that ground contact time and stiffness on the ground piece that's not a pogo.
If I hear what you're saying, you're telling coaches to actually care more a little bit about the drill work instead of just, hey, what's your max velo, what's your fly 10?
Yeah, it's like it can't just be warmed up. Okay, now we're gonna sprint. So that's obviously like super valuable. Like progress and regress those like drills, even as much as unsexy wall drills are, like that stuff can be super beneficial in teaching the angles too. Like, and then, hey, you make it more difficult. You can add a band to it and make guys actually drive their knee and their hip towards a wall to teach them that position. And then it's like, hey, now we're going to add a banded, now same position, now there's going to be a band resistant to you for the switch. Cool, that's great. Now we're going to go to a sled. Now add another layer. Now we're going to make it, now it's just a free sprint and then going 12 yards. But like nothing changes about your position. You're just moving faster. And we just kind of like added some of that motor learning piece and just changed the constraints a little bit to try to bleed it in. And so I think that's where like speeds has helped, and that's helped me be more intentful about progressing drill work, but also be more intentful of how like we're coaching our drill work while we're doing it. Along with then just be like, okay, what do we actually need to develop like our guys better? Oh, we needed more max velocity exposure, like true upper run. We have to be willing to take that risk. It can't just always be Excels.
Do you
So
think
yeah,
that this can help athletic trainers become better? Because, you know, now you're giving them more data, but you, the strength coach, in your role, you're educating them on, hey, well, this is why we're doing a dribble. This is why we're doing, like, this is the things that we're looking for. And now they're getting educated on things that, call it what it is, they don't get taught in school.
yeah,
But
100%. Literally, the conversation I had with some of our medical staff, literally, like we talked about this stuff like a week or two ago, of like, and then now with Speed 2, I can give access to multiple like users, so they can all see and kind of see like from my objective like perspective, see like the radar plots and box plots and graphs and things of like, hey, this is why maybe he's not ready to fully run the tempo yet. This is why I still have him doing dribbles. This is how we're progressing our switches. This is why. And to actually see like, oh, okay, this like makes sense. And like this is like, this is now I was telling like this is true gait analysis work instead of just using like a camera on your phone kind of thing, or like running on a treadmill, which is like kind of typically what they're kind of taught usually.
yes,
And at school, we do stuff on they run on a treadmill. We film it from back, each side, and the front. But it's like cool, but also the treadmill's doing some of the work for them. So let's put them on the ground, and now we can put them in speeds, put them in the belt with the same capital unit, and they just tell them like, hey, we're just gonna do a 40-yard, whatever speed's comfortable, like 30 yards, whatever speed's comfortable, and we'll do 5 reps, 4 reps, 2 reps, whatever. And now we get an idea, hey, this is where they're at right now. This is their strategy for how they're running. Like right, and then also within speed we can have baselines too. So like one of my rehab guys now is an ACL kid. So I was based on data from the winter, so he has like a set baseline of like, hey, this is what you were pre-injury. Same thing you would like kind of moving jump. Same thing you would with a squat, a bench, or whatever. Like it's the same as that concept. Now it's just running, essentially.
yeah, and that you can capture it all the time instead of, you know, a one-time capture. Like
Yeah,
if you have that baseline, you know, because even with your jumps, like say you're doing stuff on your Hawkin plate, whatever, but you maybe you're doing that once a quarter, once every 4 weeks, like
yeah,
versus, hey, if you're running, you know, your ACL work every week, now you have baseline, you have best, and it's all much fresher. And again,
yeah,
like it sounds like it's just a natural way for ATs and strength staff to be talking the exact same language.
yeah, 100%. And it helps even like showing the players too, like, hey, this is where you were before. This is what we're trying to get to. This is where you are like right now, currently. Doesn't mean where you're always going to stay. The same thing we do with like, hey, this is what your eccentric decel or your propulsive force on a force plate is. This is what it was. But instead of doing a jump, we can only do it twice a week because of logistics or so the timing, or have one set of plates or whatever. It's like, hey, any single time on the field, which may be 4 or 5 days a week, like we're gonna assess and we get every single step. You're just running. Like nothing changed. Like you still doing normal return to run or rehab sessions you would normally do, but instead of wearing the sports bra, now you have a waist trainer on.
How comfortable is it? Have you worn it?
Yeah, it's if you can make it as tight as you want. So I always told her, I was like, I'm like, don't be it's not Instagram model. You don't need to be, it doesn't be that tight on you. Like it needs to be on, so it's not like moving around a bunch, but you don't have to cinch your waist with it. And so most of them don't mind. I mean, they'll make jokes. I feel like a bad bitch, stuff like that, because I have like a waist trainer on.
That was going to be my question, because like I had guys from Baltimore and they'd be like, yo, Lima, what are you asking me to wear? Like they'd be like, nah, bro.
Yeah. The funniest is that like about the cameras out there, guys are like, no, I'll take no pictures of me. I just waist trainer on. I can have it go on Instagram.
Oh man, we've been talking for over an hour between off air and on air. I want to let you have some family time. Appreciate you talking about this. This is super interesting. You've been able to help out a lot of strength coaches, so thank you very much.
Oh man, no worries at all. Thanks for having me.
Taking a quick break from the show to talk to you about one of our sponsors, Powerlift. Powerlift is located here in Iowa in the United States of America. I've utilized them back in 2011 when I had them at Harvard. I also had them at the University of Maryland, and then finally when I was at the University of Iowa. Their equipment is strong, it is durable, it is dependable. It's also customizable based upon whatever your needs are at your school. Check out Powerlift at the link down below.
Congratulations on making it to the end of the video. Why don't you celebrate by watching more videos just like it? You can also help us on our quest to placate the algorithm gods by liking, sharing, subscribing, and commenting. Thank you.